Well, good evening, all. Hope you're having a good Sunday evening. We've seen temperatures moderate a little bit where we're at. We've come up from the mid-teens up to the 20s this morning, and we actually hit 60 here, or close to 60. Let me bring up the high temperatures. This is yesterday's map that shows the maximum temperatures, and let me bring that chart up real quick. And here's the highs for today. So you can see we've come up quite a bit. We got a lot of 50s in Texas and even 61 up in Dalhart, and usually those guys are the cold place in the state. A lot of teens and 20s up in the north. Temperatures moderating a bit there too. And this kind of shows you the story. A lot of the colder air shifting off to the east. One little new pocket here. This is going to come into play during this week. This is a new area of developing cold air. Elsewhere, looks like things are warming up a little bit there in the desert southwest. So that's kind of the large-scale picture of what's going on. The other story is up at the mid-levels of the troposphere. This is the 500 millibar chart, and you can see we're still locked into that northwesterly flow. And you can still see a little bit of that Rex block pattern here. Cut off low, cut off high. They're not quite north and south of each other, but that still shows a little bit of that Rex block effect. We're starting to break down that blocking pattern. And by this weekend, we should be back in a zonal pattern. Jet stream pattern, pretty much going from the Great Basin area to the southeast U.S. And that kind of outlines the location of the baroclinic highs. If you go between the ridge and the trough, you're going to find the baroclinic high right there underneath the jet. So we're looking for that to be right there around Oklahoma and right around Texas. Let me take a look over in chat and make sure everything looks good as far as the audio. And hello to everybody. See, got Jeff and Lexi and Michael, Kevin, Mark, Ron. Hope I didn't miss anybody here. Got the crowd there. We're getting into a bit of a warm air advection pattern, and you can see that on the visible imagery. Let me shift that down here. This is South Texas. So earlier today, you can see a lot of stratus and stratocumulus in the Rio Grande Valley. And that starts shifting northward during the day. So you see there it goes right there. So we're starting to bring up the moisture just off the surface, coming up north there. The actual pattern, let me see where, yeah, here it is. We're getting on the west side of that high pressure. So this high is actually centered a little bit east of where I had it earlier. It's going to be in the Midwest area around Kentucky, Tennessee, and West Virginia. And we're getting on the west side of that, so we're bringing up southerly flow from the Gulf. And you can see a little bit of moisture down to the south starting to come up. And also this whole area here, this is a warm air advection area. So we're going to see a lot of that developing over the next day or so. In fact, the warm air advection is going to be so strong that we're going to see a lot of fog and stratus develop overnight here in Texas and maybe up in Oklahoma overnight. So let's do those fronts. A couple good frontal systems off the Atlantic coast. So we're going to draw the cold front kind of like this, maybe down through Cuba and down to the Yucatan, then back up around the Rio Grande area. We don't have a very good tight boundary along that front, so I'm just kind of going off continuity here. And that looks like that comes up through the Four Corners area. See, there's a little bit of banding right there. And hooks up into this next California system. So that's probably what I would go with right there. And looks like a bit of an Arctic front maybe parked here in the northern Rockies. Jet stream, we're going to find that to be kind of in this area right here. And 500 millibar chart kind of has that right in that area. Okay, so that's the basic overview. We'll take a look at a few key areas on the surface chart. Do we see the front to the south? Looks like it is pretty far south. I would probably have to go all the way down to Veracruz in Mexico. In fact, down here in this, I don't know what area that would be called, Chiapas, maybe down in here, still got north winds raging through this mountain pass here. And cloudy conditions, northeast wind from onshore. So it doesn't look like that front is pushed pretty far south. But that is going to be on its way back north over the next day or two. California, though, they're getting the rain big time, especially up north. Let me get that centered right there, and you can check out a little bit of that. South flow ahead of the cold front. I guess the cold front's going to be somewhat like that. Probably north of Nevada a little bit, maybe. But we can see 71 there at Bakersfield, some pretty good warm air in place. And most of the precip is hanging around in North California there. Let's take a look at what the drought conditions have been like over the past few months. This is the U.S. Drought Monitor. That's kind of a running total of where drought conditions are in place. This is up through January 3rd, though, so we don't have the absolute current data, but we had the southern half of California in a drought area right here. Have they had relief? This is our radar verification for the past 14 days here. I'm sorry, past 7 days. And let me see if I can bring up the state outlines. There we go. That's a little bit better. So basically this is showing the deserts have been pretty dry, but we've had about an inch in the LA basin. You go up to the San Joaquin Valley, still about an inch to an inch and a half. Then we get up to the Sacramento, San Francisco area. We start picking up 2-inch totals. And of course, totals are a lot higher in the mountainous areas. So this is definitely helping out with the drought situation there. Elsewhere around the country, also some relief a little bit with the drought in the southeast. This area here has been under most of the influence of that drought. We've had totals up to about 5 to 6 inches over the past week from about Mobile up to about, I guess, Macon. I think Macon is right here. Okay, let's see here. Let's take a look at our air mass here in Dallas. We're located here in Dallas. So we're a little bit Texas-centric here. Our sounding here, taken about an hour ago, looks like this. So yeah, even though we've warmed up today, we've still got the frontal inversion and a cold air mass showing up very distinctly on this sounding. Yesterday it was topping out at about 18,000 feet, and it has been replaced by much warmer air in this layer, and now the tops of that frontal inversion probably about 6,000 feet. So definitely a change there. Starting to warm up pretty much through the entire column here. And you can see the tropopause still up pretty high, up about 40,000 feet, so we're not getting the core of the polar air down in this region. That's mostly up north. So this air mass way down here in the lower levels, it's obviously a very cold air mass. Where does it come from? I went ahead and ran some trajectories with a high split model. These are the trajectories for Dallas. The red one, the red line that you see here, let me show you the vertical one here first. The red line is the trajectories down at 10 meters off the ground. And then the blue line is the trajectories 500 meters off the ground. That's about 1,500 feet. And the green one is up at 3,000 feet. So these are all kind of like low-level trajectories. You can see with all three of them, they've come from the Canadian high Arctic. So about 5 or 6 days ago, they were in this area near the North Pole. They wandered down south with that high-pressure area that came through over the weekend. And now you can see a little bit of recurvature as the flow starts swinging around. So we're getting some recycled polar air, but that's gradually changing, and we're going to start picking up air from the Gulf over the next couple of days. And just to show you how much of a trend, how much of a difference is coming up, let me show you what this is going to look like for Friday or Thursday night. So here's the trajectories for Dallas on Thursday night. Much different picture. Definitely recirculated, but there's a long dwell time in the Caribbean and the Bay of Campeche here. So we're going to start picking up quite a bit of moisture as these trajectories come over that area and work up later in the week. Okay, we've covered quite a bit there. Let me see what's next here. Here's a quick look at the radar for California. A little band of showers going through the, I guess that'd be around Fresno. I'm not sure which way it's moving. I haven't had a chance to look at the radar, but definitely some much needed rain out in that area. So I guess we're about ready to head into the forecast, and let me get that set up here. This is the GFS model. And there we go. And I'll take a quick look at the chat, see if anything's up here. Looks good, pretty quiet in the chat. A lot of people on, though, tonight. So starting out here. Oh, yeah, I wanted to show you one clip before I forget this. We did have some very cold weather through the Great Lakes area. And I wanted to show you this one video here. This is from Toronto, from permission from a road camera.
Here we go, here we go, here we go. Oh.
This is what you get with snow and some bad driving. And you can see that truck was really barreling along there, probably a good 60 or 70 miles an hour. So you definitely got to be careful when you're out driving in these conditions. You never know if the people ahead of you are watching what's going on ahead of them. So yeah, definitely keep your following distance kind of far out there while you're driving in this weather. But things have improved there in Toronto. They had a kind of an Alberta clipper go through, and that's what that snow was that you just saw. And now they're getting things moderating under that high pressure. So moving forward, warm air advection setting up in Texas, and we've got a little bit of a lee side trough here in Colorado and New Mexico due to that increasing zonal flow. And you can see things pretty active there in the Pacific. Okay, so what are things going to look like tomorrow for the webcast? Here we go for Monday evening. Looks like just more warm air advection just kind of spreading out across the entire Midwest and central U.S. Lee side trough in Colorado. And looks like some of these areas of disturbances, upper level disturbances, crossing the Great Basin area from the Pacific, working their way inland. So snow showers out in that area. Then for Tuesday's webcast, not much change, but a little bit of moisture makes its way northward, and now we get a little bit of a cold front working into the Chicago area, into Michigan, and cyclogenesis taking place around the Wyoming area. So that's going to keep the progress of this cold air here. Let me show that to you. Up here, that's going to keep that in check. That's going to keep it from dropping southward. So when we get that cyclogenesis set up here in the northern Rockies, that gives us a component like that, because we have counterclockwise flow around lows. And as you can imagine, that kind of pushes up against the cold air mass and keeps it kind of locked up to the north. So that's what's going on right there. More rain for the Pacific coast there. So more precipitation totals on the way for Northern California. Then for Wednesday, some of that starts making its way inland here. The front to the north is going to look kind of like this here, kind of like a stationary front, maybe pushing south a little bit through the Central Plains. And it looks like maybe in the desert southwest, maybe that cold front is working its way through Arizona a bit. Because you can see that thickness packing there. Might be looking at something like this, actually. In any case, it will be a dry system because, at least in Texas, because we got some very strong downslope, and that's going to mean probably a little bit of an active dry line. Not in terms of storms, but as far as dry air coming off the plateau region of New Mexico. But that moisture will be starting to work up to the north, and we'll have that in place on Thursday. And we start breaking out a few showers in the Red River area of Texas. So the frontal system will be looking like this. Finally, we kick that high southward. And you can see the 540 decameter line coming through Kansas City to Dodge City. And looks like the Pacific front is going to be something like that. Pacific front here, Arctic front there. And then for Saturday, things should get active. GFS going for a winter storm pattern across Oklahoma, North Texas, and northern Arkansas here. And it's going for sleet here and some freezing rain. And it expands this area out into freezing rain, basically north of Dallas up to Oklahoma City and out to Abilene. And we will take a look at the Canadian model and see what that says right there. And as you can see, one thing I wanted to show you, see how the 540 line is way up north, even though we're getting freezing rain and snow here? That's because we've got a very shallow layer of cold air. In fact, let me see if I can bring up the sounding. This is the Oklahoma City sounding on Saturday night. And you can see that layer of freezing air is right here, topping out only about 2,000 or 3,000 feet off the ground. And then you have this very deep layer of warm air. And by warm, we mean conducive to liquid precipitation. So this is a classic freezing rain pattern. If we get enough lift and if things are positioned the way the GFS is going for, that's going to be probably an ice storm for the Oklahoma and North Texas area, especially with sub-freezing air that deep and that cold. So we'll have to see exactly how this situation shapes up over the next few days. Again, that's going to be for Friday going into Saturday. Okay, let me put these charts back the way I had them. Okay. The progression from there basically is we're going to see adiabatic warming take place as the system continues precipitating. We don't have any more infusion of cold air from the north, so we're going to see it kind of warm up. We're going to gradually erode the cold air, and things will change over to liquid by Sunday going into Monday there. So it doesn't look like a winter storm situation spreading to the east like we often see this time of year. Looks like just kind of a rain event later on, assuming the GFS is correct here. So going into Tuesday and Wednesday, just kind of a weak front pushing south. And then we see what's kind of a very zonal pattern, very active Pacific pattern here with the systems coming on shore and working through the Rockies. This is around the 20th and 21st here. And then we get to the outer fringes of the model run. So let's see what the Canadian model had for that winter storm in Oklahoma and Texas. Let me get that positioned here. Okay, so there's Thursday. Here comes the front. Again, we're looking at the Canadian model. This is Thursday afternoon. Front comes south. You can see the Pacific energy coming in from Arizona. And here comes our system coming together, leading edge from about Little Rock to Dallas, midday on Friday. And yeah, the Canadian is going for a very similar situation. It's kind of surprising seeing the Canadian model agreeing with the GFS, but that is the case here. So it looks like we were reasonably confident of a ice event or sleet event in Oklahoma for Friday going into Saturday. So there it is right there. And a similar picture, push the front southward, we get the latent heat taking effect. Looks like the Canadian model pumping a little bit more cold air, so we see a transition over to snow in some areas. And it keeps the freezing rain, sleet, and snow line basically along I-44 and north of there. And that's about all I got for today. So looks like we got something to look forward to this weekend. And we'll definitely run some wind grids panels as we get later in the week, and we'll see how this situation evolves. One question from Felix: does your weather forecast from 2 or 3 days ago match what actually happens for the given day? Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't really done any verification of the forecasts. You're welcome to, run the archives back and see how we do. Mostly what we're doing is we're just kind of going with the GFS and kind of using it to learn the building blocks of putting a forecast together and kind of piecing that together with a Canadian model. And of course it might be wrong, but basically, as I mentioned, we're kind of seeing how the forecast comes together based on this model data. Anyway, that's about all I got for today, and hope you enjoyed the weathercast, and we will be back tomorrow at 8 o'clock, the usual time, and I hope I'll see you there. Thanks.